Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So good morning, everybody. Welcome and thanks for joining us. My name is Valerie Sloan. I work at NCAR, National Center for Atmospheric Research in higher education. And some of the work I do is supporting faculty around the country in running RU internships, research experiences for undergraduates. And in doing so, increasing the representation of underrepresented students, minority students in those. And I also work with undergrads, grads, and postdocs on workforce development, preparation, and career development. My background, just by the way, is in science. I did a master's and PhD in Arctic and Alpine glacial geology with lots of field adventures. So I moved over to this realm of work about 10 or 15 years ago after doing quite a bit of teaching. I'm really fortunate today to have Falko Judt co-host this seminar with me. And Falko, I'm going to ask if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Falko Judt. I'm a scientist, one at NCAR, by the way. This is our cat Andromeda. She'll be running around here while I speak, probably. So I'm a scientist, one at NCAR. I've been at NCAR for 5 years now. I was a postdoc first for 2 years, an ASB postdoc. And then I got a job there, a ladder track scientist position in the mesoscale and microscale meteorology laboratory. Before that, I was at the University of Miami, where I got my master's and PhD. So my background is really research meteorology. I'm a storm person. I love hurricanes. That's why I went to Miami to study hurricanes. And after coming to NCAR here, I still study hurricanes, but I'm also looking at atmospheric predictability, how far out we can predict the weather and other tropical weather phenomena. So yeah, I'm a meteorologist, and I also love to do outreach and things like this, where I explain, where I give some tips about CVs and other application materials. So hopefully it's useful for you guys. And yeah, I'm looking forward to facilitate the seminar.
Thanks, Falko. And sorry for changing the slide. That I couldn't go backwards, but anyhow, yeah, so we realize that this is a tough time for, thinking about the future, looking for jobs, and we really want to support you in that and support whatever you do. And also, it's really important to have excellent application materials. It helps with whatever job you might be applying for. So that's kind of what we're going for here. And it's an emphasis on people interested working in academia and research, but some of these things will apply no matter where. So just to be clear before we get going, what is the difference between a resume and a CV? And just kind of generally, just to round it all up, basically, if you're applying for a faculty position, a research position at a university, a research position at a lab, like a government lab or a lab like NCAR, you need to use a CV. And the same is true if you're writing proposals to NASA or NSF, you need to include a CV. If you're applying for a postdoc, probably a CV also. A resume for undergraduates going into grad school, it might be kind of a blend. For a teaching position like a community college, it'll be a different kind of CV, a teaching CV. And then basically for all other jobs, it's a resume. The differences being that a resume is no longer than 2 pages, it can be 1 to 2 pages. And a CV can be 58 pages long, although, I think people are moving towards shorter these days. So there's a much more of sort of a structured outline for the CV, and the resume, you can rearrange things according to the job. So today we're talking about the CV. You might need both in your life at different times. Okay, I'm going to try to change the slide. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, So these are some points that we want you to think about, and they're sort of really important ones that we might repeat so that we get them across. But before you put the effort into applying for a job, think about, and of course it depends on how much you need a job, but think about, is it a job that you want? If you feel like this is not something you're going to enjoy at all, maybe think about not applying. It's going to kind of show when you're applying. Also, are you qualified for it? I was reading comments from faculty on search committees in universities saying they couldn't believe how many people were applying for jobs that they didn't have the right background. So it sounds very obvious, but make sure that you are qualified. One really important thing, super important, is to tailor your materials and your letter to the job described in the ad. Using the language from the ad, make sure you are speaking to that job description. In your materials, you don't want to just be bragging, so put evidence in there. We'll talk a little more about that. Another really big complaint from employers and faculty is people don't know enough about the organization that they're applying to. Making sure that your references know about that they might be contacted for every job that you apply for. And then in particular, sort of circling back, follow the directions. Like, don't give information they don't need. Give evidence and stick to the page limits. So I guess, Falko, unless you have something to add, we'll go. I mean, do you have something you want to add?
So I really want to stress that it's important to apply to that specific job. Let me give you an example. So when I was a postdoc and I had to find a job because the postdoc only is 2 years, so I really only picked 4 jobs that were out there that I applied to. And I really tailored my materials. I really slaved over it, and I spent an awful lot of time to make those 4 applications count. Now I have a friend, he was also an ASP, and he did the scattershot approach. So he wrote 30 applications, or over 30 applications, but that means he couldn't really tailor them that well. And it was what we call the scattershot. You just send your applications out there. So I ended up having 2 interviews, and he did not get any. I'm pretty sure that is a big reason that he did not tailor his job applications. He just had one generic cover letter and just send them out to any job that was out there. So it's really important, pick your jobs wisely that you think they're a good fit for you, and then really tailor your materials. Val, that's what I had.
And don't shut it out because you think it might not be. Like, maybe it is a pretty good fit, but consider it even if you think it might not be exactly, because they might be happy to have you change things a bit and focus on something else. Yes, the tailoring is important. And you can tell that Falko put a lot of effort in, you saw some of his materials. So here's some basic tips, and you can find these on all kinds of career center web pages. If you look up CV formatting, career center. You definitely need margins and large enough font. Don't write justify. Use page numbers. Put your name in the header or the footer of every page. Avoid strange fonts and boxes and personal information that they don't need. And be consistent in the order. I have to tell you that, like, some of the ones I've seen but with postdocs, they don't fit this at all. And I think, wow, like, I thought this was all obvious, but you don't necessarily know because you're not looking at lots of CVs. But look at examples on the web. Also, there's I think I sent the link with the professor is in Rules of the Academic CV, and she's got some good tips in there. So now Falko is going to share with you his CV. So go ahead. Oh no, I guess I need to do that, don't I?
Yeah, while you figure that out, I want to really bring something up here. So we're covering a lot of these advice here that you find in the professors and I'm sure if you want to get into an academic job, you know about the book The Professor Is In. There are some really useful tips in there, even though the style may not be to everyone's liking. And I'm not the biggest fan of the book either. And I want to tell you that even if you follow all those advice 100%, that does not guarantee that you will get a job. So I've been reviewing ASP applications and people ask me, what do you need to put in the application to get ASP? And I tell them, well, you should put in these things and you should organize your material in this way. And they did that. They didn't get ASP. And then they asked me, well, I did all these things that you said. I said, sure. So doing all these things does not mean that it does not guarantee you a job. On the other hand, if you do something not 100% as we tell you or as the Professor Is In tells you, that doesn't mean that you won't get a job. You see in my CV, for example, I used italics. Karen Kalski, the author of the Professor Is In said, do not use italics under any circumstances. Well, I did. I still got a job. So really try to follow these advice, but if you address your cover letter by accident to the wrong person and everything else is great, it does not mean that you will not get to the next step. So try to follow these advice, but it's not like you don't do, you do everything not 100% right doesn't mean that you will be automatically disqualified.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed that she had a few things like that. Do not use bullet points.
Yeah, do not use bullet points. I also use bullet points in my CV.
Can you see this adequately?
I can, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can.
Excuse me. All I see is Google Slides. I don't see a CV.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I know why. Sorry, my fault. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yay, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so I'll try to go over this and I'm going to give, Val, I'm going to tell you, okay, scroll down when I'm going to the next section. So as you can tell, that's my CV. It's a little weird talking about it this way, but anyways, my name is on top, big and bold, then my address, the snail mail address, which is really important. Put it everywhere when you write a cover letter, when you write a CV. It's weird, nobody uses it, nobody will send you a nice postcard, but we still do it, and it tells you that you're a fully functioning adult if you do this, if you follow these etiquettes that we have in the field. Then I put my research interests there, and that's something I actually added later because I saw more and more CVs that had it. I didn't have it originally there, and then I just went into this herd mentality. Oh, I see it everywhere, so I better do it too. Anyway, so below that, I've listed my professional experience. So when I think when I applied for the postdoc, my professional experience was very slim. So I didn't have it up there. I had the application up there. I moved this around, I think, when I applied for my current job. So anyway, so if you're a grad student or a postdoc, I think it's okay to have education up there. That's most important. It shows when you got your PhD, the institution and so on. But I have my professional experience up there. So anything, pretty much starting from when I became a grad student in 2007. Or actually it was before I became a grad student. I was still an undergrad at that time. Yeah, so below that is my education. Everything that I did in the US, and I'm originally from Germany. So I got what they call a Vordiplom in 2005. And there's no, for all you international student people out there, there's no equivalent here in the US. So I just put a rough translation. It's an intermediate exam. It's something like a bachelor's, but not quite. Anyways, I've never gotten questions about it, so it's probably not that important because really what matters is your post-bachelor's education. Okay, below that, there's the awards and honors section. I'm not really sure how important this is. I think it is important. And if you go down in that list, the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth item there, it says NOAA Climate and Global Change Postdoctoral Fellowship. I put it there even though I didn't take this postdoc, and it's pretty much, yeah, it's really just bragging that I got it. I think my PhD advisor told me to put it this way. So I applied for that fellowship and I applied for NCAR ASP and I got ASP and I took ASP, but my PhD advisor was under the impression that the NOAA Climate and Global Change Postdoctoral Fellowship is a little bit more prestigious. First of all, she was mad that I didn't take it. And then she told me, oh, you have to put it on your CV. So I put it there and then I wrote in parentheses decline. I'm not the biggest fan because it's like braggadocio, I guess. But anyways, you want to get a job, you put everything that you want, any awards or honors that you want, you put it on there.
Yeah.
And
I did the same thing, Falko, for what, if it makes you feel any better.
Okay.
I'm from Canada and I got a few, big scholarships to do my PhD and I declined it to come here and I would include it on mine.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I'm not the only one. I think I've seen it in other CVs now too. And yeah, there's some other best paper, best presentation awards. So you will see later in my cover letters, I said, hey, I think I'm a good scientist or a good researcher because I've won awards. And then I refer to the CV. I don't do it explicitly, but if you just write in the cover letter, hey, I'm a good scientist, I'm a good communicator, that's your writing, you're telling, but you also have to show. And if you have these kind of awards, you put them on your CV, you can actually back up your claims that you're a good researcher or a good communicator.
Right.
So that's where the CV and cover letter kind of, complement each other. So I didn't add these awards to my cover letter. I just said, I think I'm a pretty good researcher, see my attested to by awards.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll talk about it when we go to the cover letter. And then there's the whole slew of publications. We don't have to go through them. So you can just scroll down, put everything that you're a first author and a co-author on there. So it starts with my very first paper and then pretty much everything that I was involved in is on there. Now there's the section about submitted manuscripts and manuscripts in preparation that's a little bit controversial. Some people use it to pad their CVs and I guess I'm doing that too here. So because I'm putting stuff in preparation on there. I've met faculty that said, don't put anything that's in preparation on there. Maybe submit it, yes, but not in preparation. Again, my PhD advisor told me, put in preparation because it shows what you're working on. And so my philosophy is I put something on the CV that's in preparation when I've started writing the paper. So there's actually something there. You can see I wrote manuscript available upon request. I think that's fair to put these things on there, especially when you're grad student, postdoc that does not have an extensive publication record. And then below that, there's the non-referee publications. It's, like little pieces of science writing, mostly to, let's say for non-specialists, like the first item there, I wrote about the intensity of hurricanes, but also my theses are on there too. So I have them under non-referee publications. And then below that, that's the presentations. And I reorganized that section also about a year ago. So once I was in my permanent position, before that, I had pretty much all my conference talks listed there. Now it became too long or it became too boring. So now what I do, I broke it up into invited talks. Those are I guess, the most prestigious. I put them up there first, and then the conference presentations. And I only have the ones within the last 3 years because I'm getting older. I'm giving more and more talks. I've started giving talks, I think, in 2008. So it becomes a very long list. And so I decided to just have really the last 3 years. But you can put anything that you have ever presented on there if you want to. As Val said before, your CV can be as long as possible. I don't know, I'm German, I like everything efficient and short, so I decided to just have my last 3 years of publication, of conference talks on there.
And speaking of talks, it's not a bad idea to contact people in various departments that have, similar fields and offer to give a talk. Now with no travel, that's even easier. And then you can put, departmental talks, or you can put it down as a talk that you've given, which it's actually a great, it's like giving yourself an interview also, but it helps build your network as well. So don't be shy about offering. Often people are trying to organize speakers for seminars, and it can be hard to find speakers. So it could be really excellent to have you offer. By the way, don't be intimidated. I know I'm intimidated by Falko's CV because it's like incredibly productive. But as he says, he's been at it for a long time, and so
yeah,
wanted to say,
So it was, when I applied for my postdoc, it was much shorter. I think it was 3 or 4 pages, and I've taken a lot of fluff out. So anyways, but yeah, so now the research experience, and I'm pretty sure it's too detailed when you read the professors, and it says no bullet points under no circumstances. Well, here you go, I have bullet points there. So one of those pieces of advice that I did not follow. It tells what I'm doing. I doubt anyone ever read it. So maybe I'm just gonna take it out and at some point.
Having something, right? I mean, to explain what you work on is.
Yeah, I guess, but it's kind of self-explanatory if you read the paper titles, for example. If you read the titles, if you don't just count the publications, but you actually look what the publications are about, then you can kind of guess what I was up to.
Okay, but I mean, I think it's fine what you've got personally, like,
Yeah.
The amount you have.
Okay, good.
I think less might be too little, and more might be too much.
Yeah. All right, so we can go down. The mentoring experience. So when you want to go to a university and teach, then this is of course quite important. Now I'm not a professor, so my mentoring experience, teaching and mentoring experience is rather small. I was a TA in Miami, and then at NCAR here, I've been a source mentor over the last couple of years. You can see from the years there, I didn't put a entry for every year. I'm just saying, hey, I've been mentoring for the source program, which probably most of you will know, over the last few years. Yeah. Okay, then there's some field work experience. That's something I think we do in our field. We just put it on there. Yeah, I'm not sure how important it is. If you have worked in the field, surely it's important to put it on there because it shows you're not only comfortable working with the computer, but you can also, field experience are an important part of our field. Yeah, the leadership activities, community service is something that you're gathering as you go along in your career. And then there, yeah.
I just wanted to say, rather than putting in hobbies and interests, take some of your, if there's something that you've done and turn it into a leadership activity. If you were part of a chapter of say AMS or a student chapter, put that down, that kind of thing. It's more professional sounding to have it called leadership activities or communication experience, that kind of thing, versus interests.
Yeah, and then there's the education and outreach, which I'm pretty passionate about. So anything that I've been really doing, I've been at the state capitol in Denver and talked about my research. And it starts with, I was a speaker at our campus in Miami about Hurricane Ike, which was threatening the city in 2008. And there's even an outreach video that University of Miami, they took it of me and put it on YouTube. Please don't watch it. And then I'm just listing here the professional activities and associations I'm in. And then this, I'm not sure, technical strengths, I think it is not really necessary. Your languages, well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, thanks.
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, now I just have to figure out how to get back to.
I guess if somebody has questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, there was a question in the chat. I see your YouTube link and a hyperlink.
Oh.
It's supposed to be a hyperlink. So if it's broken, then I probably broke it when I recompiled the LaTeX code for that CD. So I would encourage to have direct hyperlinks there, so people can just click and don't have to copy and paste.
Okay, can you see this okay? You see that in a good cover letter slide?
Yes.
Can everybody else?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, Falko. So now on to cover letters. And so there's really a sort of a formula in the first paragraph. You want to identify the job and institution and your interest in the job. And then have something like 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs. You want to make the letter about 1.5 pages, not less than a page, not more than 2 pages. And you want to order the paragraphs according to, is it primarily a teaching university? Is it primarily a research lab? That kind of thing. And have your paragraphs start with the most important one of those. And then maybe next you talk about other parts of your experience. As Falko said, provide examples of experience and skills that they look for in the job. And remember that idea of like researching the organization. It's connect with the theme or focus of that group and department. Dig around on their website. What are the people in that department researching? What are their departmental talks about? Sometimes you can see, like, oh, they're very environmentally oriented, or climate change is a big deal, or whatever, something like that. And you really want to show that you are going to help them. It's less, some letters are really, people don't think about that so much. They sort of just do the bragging piece. So I just looked up higher ed jobs. I found this job, in case anybody's looking, at St. Cloud University in Minnesota. And you can see this is, I scrolled down to it, you can see responsibilities, required qualifications, preferred qualifications. So these are the things that you want to address in your letter. And again, pulling in evidence of it. So, you know, you can say if they're looking for, let's see, active interest in the current weather, you can say, well, you know, I hold a regular session for my team on weather, or I have a whatever you call it, Twitter or something like that, you know, somehow showing the things that are in the application, I'm sorry, the job ad. Conversely, a bad cover letter will list the same material that's in your CV. So that's not what the point is of the letter. It's not to say, oh, I worked here and then I worked there. It's to really wrap their heads around why you are going to fit this job, and how does your experience connect the dots for them, especially if you are using bullet points. They don't know how your experience is going to fit with their department. Yes, people will sometimes talk about how this job is perfect for them. They don't care. I mean, they're happy if you're glad, but letters that have the wrong names, like, if you send out 100 letters, it's going to be generic. Generic letters they just don't tell you anything. They just tell you that the person's telling you that they're great. And I wanted to find some good examples for you. I'll keep looking and email you some, because when you start reading bad examples of cover letters, it becomes clear very quickly that what it is that is unappealing in a cover letter. Also, like being too pushy, or too meek. So here's a number: 54% of recruiters will reject a generic cover letter if it's not customized. So that's probably from some business. Falko, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I think you covered everything.
Okay, so Falko is going to present a cover letter for 2 different jobs, quite different jobs he applied for. And you'll see he's packed and full of evidence, but the emphasis is a little bit different because of where he was applying. Hold on.
All right, so yeah, I already told you, so I was a postdoc, and I was looking for jobs, what to do afterwards. And as it is, I thought, okay, I got my PhD, I did my postdoc, so what's the most normal thing to do is, well, go and get a faculty position, even though I never really wanted to be a professor. So it's kind of one of these inertia things. You're just going into a career path, and then you're following what everyone else does, even though to me, I never wanted to be a professor. Anyway, so I applied for 3 faculty positions, and I applied for 1 NCAR, so that counts as a research lab position when I was a postdoc. And let's talk about the cover letter to a university first. So this is to the University of Hawaii. They were looking, if I remember the job ad correctly, for a tropical meteorology person. So this is important. And I thought, actually, that fits me pretty well, because I am, as a hurricane scientist, I've studied mostly hurricanes. I am squarely in the tropical meteorology field. And I hope that comes through in the letter. This letter actually was not successful. I heard back from them, and they said, sorry, well, you're not under consideration anymore. Anyway, so in that first, I guess, right under the addressing the chair of the search committee, I think it is, so Professor Businger, I'm writing, there's this very standard boilerplate, I am writing an application to ... So I'm saying what I'm applying for, the exact position, and what I am currently doing. I'm a postdoc at NCAR. And then my main research interests are in, well, remember they were looking for a tropical meteorologist. So tropical meteorology, tropical cyclones, and then the other topics, that's essentially what I was doing at NCAR at that point.
I like that you bolded, that you did that in bold, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I read
pages, pages.
Yeah, I think that was actually advice that I got in one of these postdoc seminars here at NCAR. Somebody said, just put something in bold there. Okay. So the next paragraph is about my work, essentially, what I've been doing, hurricane intensity prediction. So that tells them that I'm comfortable with hurricane and tropical meteorology. Then below that, there's my primary ongoing research project. So that now I'm describing what I've been doing at NCAR, because I switched gears a little bit. I've not only been studying hurricanes anymore. I've been branching out. I've been using a global model, and I've been running global high-resolution simulations. So I put that there so they know it's not only hurricanes that I've been doing, but I put the hurricanes first because, remember, they were looking for a tropical meteorologist. Okay, Val, you can scroll down. Okay, so the next, what comes now is essentially where I'm showing, not just telling. So, okay, I have 5 first author publications. They can go to the CV and find them. And then I said, okay, I have these, essentially describing what these publications are about. They're not only hurricanes, but I've also studied the Marian-Julian oscillation, which is another tropical weather phenomenon. And I've also studied air-sea processes in the Gulf of Mexico. So I want to tell them that it's not only the atmosphere. I'm actually coming from a school that prides itself in ocean atmosphere research, interaction research. So I'm showing that. And then there's this weirdly written various awards attest to my solid understanding of multi-scale dynamical processes. So that's where I said, okay, I think I'm actually pretty good at that, and I've won awards. You can go to the CV and find them. And I use that as an intro to what I think I'm capable of teaching. So tropical meteorology, anything that involves tropical weather, essentially. And then below that, I'm writing about my source experience. So I want to show that I can work with undergraduates, or I can work with students. I'm good at mentoring. I hope I'm good at mentoring. I show them I have some experience, even though I'm just a postdoc and not at a university, but a research lab. I did some mentoring work. And again, that work was pretty well received because there was an outstanding mentee that I was mentoring there. So NCAR actually put out a press release, and it was published on the website of Physics Today. So I put little hyperlinks there.
And then mentoring is really important. You know, faculty they like to see that in terms of your potential to be advising graduate students and postdocs.
Yeah, and then that's the final paragraph there. Where I kind of wrap everything together, and going back to their job ad, you know, they were looking for a tropical meteorologist, and my work was in tropical cyclones, my grad school work, and I think so I would be a good fit. And then there's this, which I learned also from the postdoc seminars. You want to highlight certain people you think you can work with, and I just went through the roster on their website and looked up professors, some of them which I knew, and I said, I think I can work with this person. I think I can work with her on this, but I didn't really contact them. I just wrote them there, and then in the end, I gave a link to my personal homepage, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool, thanks. Okay, on to the NCAR letter.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different because first of all, it's not a university, and I was at NCAR at the time. So if you read the second paragraph here that starts with MMM provides an appealing research environment, I think it's a little bit unfair because I know NQ. I am a postdoc. Remember, I'm a postdoc at that point in the lab applying for a scientist position in the lab. So I said, I kind of thought, okay, I really like it here. I want to show them that I do like it here because, I mean, I would like to work there. And if I show that, maybe they will pick me. And so I write about what I like about the lab, essentially. And that's something that I could only do here at NCAR because I was at NCAR. It would be weird if I wrote that about, let's say, Hawaii. Maybe you can do it when you're applying for a faculty position at a university that you were a grad student at. But anyway, so I think it was well received. Anyways, then I'm going into my work, and now I'm not highlighting hurricanes because the job ad was very broad and generic. So I thought if I just focused everything on, let's say, hurricanes, that I would come across as a person that's doing very narrow research. And so I wrote it in a broader scope. What I'm doing now is I'm using global convection resolving models. And that's just a tool, but I can do so much research with this. So I'm kind of marketing myself as I'm using this tool that this lab provides. And I've started doing work in this area, but I'm also thinking about applying this tool to another area. And yeah, so it's quite different from what I wrote to Hawaii. And then I write about my postdoc research, essentially what I've been up to the last year and a half. I write about the results. Then there's again the paragraph about source. Even though NCAR is a research lab, they do take mentoring and education and outreach seriously. So I wanted to show, well, I'm actually on board. I enjoy this. I think it's important. I have been mentoring SOURCE since I came to NCAR. I think in my first year, I started mentoring for SOURCE. And I guess now I see I didn't put the hyperlinks there. Maybe it was because people were familiar with this. I'm not sure why I should have. And then in the end, I wrap everything together and say, well, I think I'm a good fit. Oh yeah, so what I did here is in this paragraph, I am convinced that my experience, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that sentence goes on, harmonizes with MCube's objectives to better understand, model, and predict mesoscale processes in our atmosphere. That better understand a model and predict mesoscale processes is from the strategic plan of our laboratory. So I went and I said, okay, what does this lab actually do? I read the strategic plan for the whole of NCAR and for our lab, and I copy and pasted essentially where my research fits into the strategic plan. What is the mission of NCAR and what is the mission of our lab?
Good idea.
Yeah, so I think that's one of these things. Tailor your material to the job ad, but if it's a research organization, or let's say it's a private company, you can also go and fish for what this company actually stands for on their broader mission. And then you write how your work would fit in achieving these goals or these mission statements.
Yeah, that helps them kind of move on their direction to where they're supposed to be going.
Hi, can I ask a question right now?
You
Sure.
bet.
Hi, so I noticed you have a letterhead that is from NCAR. So I'm currently a postdoc, but I'm in one of those weird fellowships where I have a host laboratory, but they're not really my, employer. So like, what if I don't have a letterhead? Like, should I be using the letterhead? I don't know. Can you answer that?
Yeah, I think it's fair that if you are at NCAR, and even though you may, I don't know your particular circumstances, but you are at NCAR, you're working with them, you have access to their letterheads. From all the tips I read, it's really important to have letterhead, to use a letterhead. So I would use whatever is closest to you or whatever you feel most comfortable with. I don't know, for example, it could be an NSF a postdoc that is hosted by NCAR. I think in that, I would still use an NCAR letterhead. I don't think anyone would come after you and say, like, well, you're not officially an NCAR postdoc, because it is important to use the letterhead.
Yeah, if you don't have one, you don't have one, but if you have an affiliation with any kind of organization, use it. If you're still connected, if you're still teaching where you went to grad school or wherever you are at, you should be allowed to use that. I wonder that sometimes too about, well, if I'm writing a letter of recommendation, but I do use it also.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So a couple of other things to do. Falko mentioned a website. Here's an example, one that I particularly like, by a current postdoc at NCAR, Josh. And I like the layout. It's not easy to figure out how to do all this, but he's got his curriculum vitae up there and then different links to other pages about his dissertation, about, honors, about outreach. Make sure to update a LinkedIn profile. It's really easy. It'll even help you write your, caption at the beginning. If you just type in something, or it takes language from your profile, and then you can edit the language. You could attach papers, posters, in PDF, upload those to LinkedIn so people can see it. Some people use social media to highlight their science and other science or issues in science, and on things like Twitter. Just be squeaky clean, you know, on Facebook and so on. You want to avoid being political, you avoid being, you know, whatever, a partier or something where people, they're not supposed to look up social media, but people do when they're doing job searches. So if you don't want them to know about it, make sure that it's either locked down or that you don't put things on there. And also staying connected with colleagues. One just quick tip, when you're looking to see if you wanted to find out who's working on what where, that's outside of academia, go to pick a city where you want to live and the things you want to work on, and click on the news tab and read the news articles and see what are the issues going on there. It's good to sort of start to raise your awareness of what's going on out in the world beyond the academic thing. So, oh shoot, I don't know how to go backwards on this thing. You would think it wouldn't be that hard. Hold on.
You could close presenter view and then scroll through the slides.
How would I do that? Well, anyway, yeah, so consider the possibilities outside of academia. One thing you don't hear much about is world outside of academia from professors and scientists at research labs. This is partly because they just don't have a lot of exposure, but there is a sort of a culture of, oh, this is the, you know, this is what we want our grad students to do, is carry on in this vein of doing research. And, you know, it's fun, can be fun doing research. However, it's scary if you don't end up with another postdoc or a permanent job and you think, okay, so what now? And it's good to be making yourself aware of what else is out there, how else to connect, and to be confident about you have a lot of great skills. I guarantee it. I guarantee that every one of you has great skills because of what you're doing. You know, it's reading, analyzing, writing, data analysis, image, you do it all, right? And, you know, to encourage you, there are lots of jobs outside, and it's not only okay to think about jobs outside of academia, it's becoming essential because the universities are really suffering. They are suffering particularly because of the drop in enrollment and tuition. So there are more hiring freezes and that kind of thing. So, you know, for instance, you could, if you put up a profile on the website USA Jobs, that provides you with access to work at the EPA, at NOAA, at parks, all kinds of federal departments and agencies where you get to do a fun job using your scientific skills, including doing science. So, and I don't know if you can see this properly, but this is an article from 2019 where they talk about how the private sector is employing as many PhDs as schools do. The percentage of people with PhDs who end up becoming faculty is a lot lower than you might expect. Okay, now I'm going to try to go. Okay, so I guess I missed the other slide. Sorry about that. Okay, my other point was to try to bridge create your own world of funding by collaborating with people, looking for opportunities and creating opportunities by writing grant proposals and producing some funding, some months of funding for yourself, patching together some research. And, as you might not have an official job posting, but you're doing research, you're being paid, and you're working at an institution. So, not to worry too much if you don't land that faculty job, but try and build something with proposals and research. Did you want to add anything to that, Falko? Not really.
Not really, no.
Okay, so to just reiterate some of these points that we've sort of been trying to hammer home is do your homework on the organization, tailor your materials to the job. You can find lots of great tips. Look up career centers at universities around the country and look up cover letter, resume, things like that. They have amazing resources. Expand your horizons, as I say, like look up news articles and read which government agencies and university people are working on the storm surge protection in New York City or New Orleans, or communicating about weather, bad weather and traffic in Seattle or Boston. You can find all kinds of interesting stuff in news articles. If you want to kind of get a sense of what is going on in academia, here are a couple of sort of journals online, Inside Higher Ed and the Chronicle for Higher Education. And they are, they're reporting on what is going on in the university world. I get sort of daily newsletters from them saying what's happening. This is stuff you might not hear from the people around you. And as grim as some of it is, there's also, it's good to know what's going on, and there is a lot of good advice and help on those web pages. And then also the professor is pretty interesting as well. So I think that's it for our slides. And I'm going to stop sharing them and go back to our, hopefully that stops. There we go. So let's see. Do you have any questions or ideas, suggestions? Okay, so we have some questions. Oh gosh, we've got a lot of questions. Okay, so Josh asks, would you recommend bolding important items on a CV? Sometimes for a job, relevant awards, skills, research areas are hard to find, especially since a CV is often organized based on a year. So if relevant experience was in 2016, it may not be seen by an interviewer who has to glance at many CVs in a short period of time. I think so. I believe if it's clean, if it looks clean and it's not too tiny font and you make things bold, I don't think there are any really hard and fast rules about it. I would say yes. Okay. So here's one. I've never seen anyone recommend a cover letter greater than 1 page in length. Re-emphasis on ever. Well, I have to say I do see it. Cover letters, especially for positions in research and academia, generally are 1.5 pages. And even in industry, it depends. I mean, a lot of places in industry, they actually don't mind, or they want a little bit more than just a page. Some organizations say, no more than 1 page. And if that's what they say, that's what you do. And you can always ask HR. You can call up HR or somebody, an administrative person, and ask about that. But if you don't agree, for sure, look it up in career centers. Just make sure that they're talking about academic postings, because that's different than non-academic postings. That would be more like 1 page-ish. Cover letters. Yes. Yeah. So Falko's answered that. Okay. Are there any other thoughts? I guess any suggestions, questions? So for somebody asks about the teaching, your CV seems tailored for research kind of position. What changes, differences would you recommend for a more teaching heavy position, like at a liberal arts or 2-year college? I think that your emphasis in the cover letter, well, this is the CV, both of them would, especially if you have some experience teaching, you really want to highlight those a lot more. And the fact that you do research shows that you're you're mentally alive and you're curious, but they probably are. Some liberal arts schools are expecting people to have research and grants. So you want to find out that, take a look at the people in that department. Generally, you might be asked for a teaching statement. And so that's getting into your pedagogy, which is like the approach of teaching. How do you teach? Inquiry-based, project-based, team-based, try to get a little bit savvy about what people are recommending these days. Yes, and probably if you can teach, if you're interested in teaching in your career, then it's a good idea to get some experience. And so if you can teach at a local community college, or even like at CU Boulder or somewhere, become an adjunct, or you don't even have to, you can just be a lecturer for a department. They don't pay very well at all. It's a lot of work, but you can then say, well, I've taught this class, and having taught a course is really helpful if you're looking for a job at a teaching school. Go ahead and unmute yourselves if you'd like to chime in, comment on these things as well, or ask a question. I feel like it's just so quiet. Have we got any more? Okay, so
I guess if nobody wants to say anything, I can have a few final words from my end. When I was a postdoc, it was a daunting task to look for jobs and to this application process. I just thought, yeah, it's a lot. I don't think I will find a job, and trust me, everyone will find a job. The statistics are just backing us up there that everyone will find a job. Not everyone may find their dream job if it's academia. Again, if you do the math, there's just too many applicants for too few positions. So we got to have some secondary paths that we are comfortable with, because not everyone will find a faculty position. But then again, now looking back, it was a daunting task, but it's all, I did it. Many other people did it. You will all do it, and we will all find a job later on.